You know, my theory about that comment, which was a very good one to set this up, is that I've always said it's male-dominated because more guys showed up. I mean, seriously, I just think that, you know, I have this other theory that I think is that women need to be invited. I mean, you think of this socially and culturally, you know, it's like if you talk to a bunch of gals and they say, hey, there's this party, you know, you want to go? And like, well, we weren't invited. You know, guys will say, what the heck, sure, we'll go crash the party. You know? So I think there's a cultural kind of thing in us. And then I've always felt the sport, I mean, just, you know, if more women showed up, if more people of color showed up, if more people of every ethnicity showed up and at the door and said, I want to do this, that then we would probably have had, you know, we would have better numbers. But the problem, and I'm learning, is that, and Mr. Reid is the one that basically opened my eyes to this, is that showing up is one thing, but if you don't feel welcomed or you don't feel that that door is even open for you, or that is, you know, based on your experience and your messaging, what you're hearing, well, then you're not going to go in the door. And so there's barriers there that are invisible to us that are inside, but they are very, very big on the outside. So this panel to me is going to be incredibly rich. My mother taught me at a very young age, you know how when you're young you say bad things about people, you know, it just seems to happen, and you have judgmentals that you always out. My mother always said to me, you cannot know anybody or know anything about them until you've walked in their shoes. My mom had polio and had very awkward feet and legs, and we used to have to go all the time to get shoes molded to her, you know. And so she would say that, and then I'd look at her feet, and I mean, it would be like, damn it, you know, it was, you know, she was so smart and so, you know, so insightful, and she had a lot of other abilities that made me crazy, but it would still be such a powerful lesson, and I think this is what this event is all about, is that we are now learning about what these shoes that these people have walked in, and so I'm very excited about it. So, Jimmie, you're looking right at me down there. I'm going to start with you. Jimmie is the president, or is the Penske Entertainment Chief Diversity Officer.
I hope I'm going to be president one day. Yeah. My bosses are here. Y'all heard that.
I like that, yes. But you're also, when I talk to you, you are the most animated and excited because you're the father of twin 9-year-old boys.
12.
12. Oh, 12. Okay, I got that. But when you talk about your boys and what they're doing, I mean, I think that's when the world opens up for you about how important your job is. And so I really, you know, can you tell us, you know, about your race fan history, you know, being a race fan, yes or no, and then how you sort of are raising these boys in this position you're in and what you're exposing them to.
So my name is Jimmie McMillian. I'm honored to be here today. I want to thank Cindy for putting this panel on, and this is absolutely fantastic. To be honest with you, being in this room feels a lot like being at work, because a lot of people don't know 40% of our staff are women. My boss, Gretchen Snelling, is probably one of the most preeminent lawyers in motorsports, has been in the industry for now 17, 18 years, is a woman, one of the smartest people you'll ever meet as far as law. Allison Melanchthon, my VP, is a woman. Cindy Lucchese, another one of our former chief finance officers here, she's a lawyer. I mean, she's a woman. We have women that run Indianapolis Speedway. If you come there, this is how our meetings look, actually, every day. My involvement, I am the Senior Corporate Counsel and Chief Diversity Officer of Penske Entertainment, which is IMS INDYCAR and IMS Productions. I came from the south side of Chicago and knew nothing about racing. Went to Michigan State University, then Indiana University, and while I was at IU, I've told this story a lot of times, it's going to sound weird. While I was at IU, my father shot my mother 3 times. I flunked out of school. I had to work at Best Buy, and I went to Firestone, where I worked my way up as a tire sales to be a manager. The guys in the shop, it was in southern Indiana, they used to tease me about not knowing anything about racing. They took me to my first Brickyard 400 race, where besides the South Horizon Again shirts, Dixie flags, I fell in love with the sport. And it became my favorite sport. And from that, it kind of took off. Got back in school, went to law school, became the president of the largest motorcycle club in the state, and went to the track dry, didn't know anybody, and said, can I use your facility for a fundraiser? And they said, how many people are you going to have? I said, about 100. Ended up being 8,000. And they liked that. And they hired me to promote what was then called MotoGP. We used to get paid to go promote the track. And eventually, I ended up leaving that law firm and glad to join this team May 2nd, 2016, and have not had one bad second work since. It's been absolutely phenomenal. Started as a lawyer, became the chief diversity officer last October, and when we announced our race for equality and change. So one of my sons races for Rod in his NXG Grand Prix program. My mom is alive. She's here, sitting here over there, and she's the biggest race fan ever. So my passion, as Lyn and I have just talked about, my passion is to make sure, it's great to have a dad that works at the track, and that's a blessing. But there's so many kids across the country that look like my son who don't have a dad that works at the track, and they like racing, and they love it, and they talk to their parents, and their parents say, that car is expensive. I'm not doing that. You better take this ball and go out there and figure it out. And they have no clue what to do or how to do it, how to get in it. My job is to make sure each one of those kids who has that passion can meet that passion, because when you talk about school and education and some of the other problems we have, these tools called sports help them. I want to thank Sarah, because I have twin boys. They're both different sizes. One of them is really small. And so there was this big deal about the smaller one being able to be in a cart, and Sarah made it happen. Big deal. There's a video of me giving him his license. Sarah gives him driver's license, and he got his driver's license, and he's jumping up and down crying. Sarah wasn't there, her husband was. But it's that opportunity. People forget what the opportunity means for a kid. And if you never get the opportunity, there's so many kids across the country that look like me, they will never get that opportunity to drive a cart. Never. Their parents don't understand it. They think it's crazy. And to be able to open doors for them is my passion.
I hear that passion loud and clear every time we talk, and I love it. But you shared with me a story that, because diversity and inclusion and equality are big topics all over now. Every company, everywhere, and it means different things to different people. And you are Chief Diversity Officer, and maybe I should.
You'll be fine. I'm sure they can hear me.
Yeah. And you shared with me a story about your facilities department and all that. So that, in other words, initiatives can come from the top down, or initiatives can come from, I don't want to say the bottom, but come from internally and then up. And so, would you share that one?
So there's a new rise in diversity efforts, unfortunately, due to the death of George Floyd and the murder of George Floyd, and that's great. One of the things I like about diversity is giving a lot of opportunity for white people to run in my office and say, I am not racist. I have never been racist, and I've been wanting to do something about this for a long time, and I have an idea, and I didn't know who to tell or how to get it done, but you seem to be the guy, and can you make X, Y, Z happen? And I say, that's great. I knew you weren't racist, but I'm glad that you have decided to become an ally and help us. So what is your idea? So one of our recent ideas is our Vice President of Facilities, Tyrone Garrison, had this idea. And I love the drivers. To all the drivers here, I'm honored. But there's only going to be 33 drivers at the Indianapolis 500. I am constantly telling our kids, and I believe this in my heart, the way to change this sport is not focusing on drivers. And Lyn and I fight about this. And I fight with probably everybody about this. But I'm totally about, we have to teach kids how to get sponsorships. We have to teach kids how to be marketing. We have to teach kids kids who have no intention to go into motorsports, but are going to go work for Lilly or going to go work for XYZ construction company. We have to build a passion in them so that when the money is spent, they want to spend it on racing. We have to educate people. And so my job is not to raise another or get another driver. Love you, Myles. That's going to happen. There's a whole lot of people focused on that. My job is to get people who don't know anything about motorsports, that when they're in the room and decisions are being made about spending money, that they want to spend money on this, and to get our sport to do the outreach to get there. So this program that Tyrone came up with, he said, I got a group of kids that are interested in construction and building things who are black and brown. And I said, okay. He said, I want to bring them here and have them build some stuff around the track and let them use this place as a pallet. We'll pay for the materials. We'll pay for all the stuff. They'll partner with our general contractor, and they'll build things. I said, fantastic. We're going to bring them out to the race. They're coming out to Brickyard. I just was on the phone with them yesterday. We're going to bring all these kids out. Then we're going to bring juniors and seniors back out. They're going to build some different stuff that we got going on around the track. Then they're going to bring these younger kids back out, show them what they built, and then they'll have a tie into the track. They'll see that part of motorsports because that's important too. MBE, WBE participation is a big part of our Race for Equality and Change. We got people who need opportunities but don't have the connection. You can't expect people to come out and spend money on us if we're not willing to spend money on them. And so we're looking at all of these avenues of ways of effectuating change throughout the sport. And like I said, I love the drivers. Would love it if Myles races in the Indy 500. I think it would be fantastic. But I love his engineers as just much, if not more. I love seeing his engineers because Myles is going to be okay. But the engineering part, it's a whole lot of jobs and opportunities out there from everything we do. And we got to make sure if it's vending, concessions, merchandise, all the stuff that surrounds the sport has to be diversified. And we got to be focused on all of it as an opportunity.
Just remember that what everybody sees are the drivers, okay? We are the ambassadors. We are the visible ones. And so I am totally with what you're saying, but if we don't have the drivers out there, you know, they don't even know people exist because they don't see them. But we're both right. Beth, I need help. Beth, come on.
I don't know that I'm the one to go to on this one.
No, because I know that you believe both of us. Yes. Yeah, I mean, you know, you are, because you put women in the driver's seat, but you put women in all these other roles. So in case you all don't know, Beth Paretta had created a team, actually a number of years ago, Grace Autosport, to do an all-women team at the Indy 500 and growing future. And that didn't happen, but she's determined and persistent, like you have to be in this sport. And came back this year under Paretta AutoSport and had a female-focused, female-led team that was successful competing in the Indy 500 with Simona Di Silvestro. So, but was also had a career in the background. I mean, I want to share that you've had a background in your career on the business side and managed motorsports for FCA. So you've been an automotive expert, so you kind of know all the pieces. So will you work with this?
Well,
I'm not even going to ask you.
You didn't see because I was sitting behind you, but I was nodding my head at everything that Jimmie was saying.
I know.
So, because my perspective is different, which you and I talked about even yesterday at our lunch. Yeah, I launched my program of having a female, although it's funny, I never actually said it was going to be an all-female team, even back in 2015, but that was like a nugget that the press picked up on, and sometimes you kind of light that fuse and the horses left the barn. It was always meant to be female forward because no matter what, it always had to start as co-ed, because there are women in racing, we all know that. So just a quick background is, my background is in automotive. I worked for Fiat Chrysler. Prior to that, I worked for Aston Martin, and before that, I worked for Volkswagen Group. I've always been a car and racing fanatic. I started reading car magazines when I was 5, like most young girls. And I'm also from Connecticut, so it's not like I live in Detroit now, so being in a factory town and working for a car company is kind of just everybody's destiny because your parents work there, your grandparents work there. But it wasn't my experience. I absolutely found my path to get there. Maybe not as consciously as I thought, but when I look back, it all makes sense. I had posters on my wall of cars and Duran Duran. But in being an but here's the big secret. My team, Paretta AutoSport, which competed this year, and although I have all this messaging, it's not about racing. Blaspheme, here to say that out loud and here this weekend. but it's about what I know inherently, and what we all know is racing is exciting and something that you can be passionate about. But it has so many tentacles and can lead to so many things. And I knew that firsthand as a fan, and then I saw it firsthand when I worked in automotive and racing. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a treasure trove. And we can do so much more with it, and we have to, and we should. So to that point, it was to spark that germ of an idea. And the idea of having, so fast forward to working for a car company. I worked for Fiat Chrysler. I ran the performance division, SRT, the marketing and operations of the SRT Street and Racing Technology performance division. So all the performance cars. And with that responsibility came running all the motorsport programs. So I saw that full circle of why car companies race. What do they do? What does it do for them? And really, it's a breeding ground, a training ground for the very best and brightest engineers. Let you in on a secret, which you can probably all kind of figure out. You can't be mediocre in racing, in any role. You'll get spat out very quickly. You have to be good. Doesn't mean you have to start out good, but you have to be willing to put in the work and put in the long hours. But racing is not for the mediocre. And seeing those things, that's why car companies will rotate engineers and different people in through those programs, because the green flag waits for no one. You need to get your stuff together, and you need to be out on the grid. So seeing that and knowing that you could use it for so many other things, so it's like, okay, there's something here. The other thing that was happening was, so in my responsibility of being the motorsport director for Fiat Chrysler, that meant I had to oversee, we were launching the new Viper. So we're going to bring the Viper back to sports car racing, ideally go back to the 24 Hours of Le Mans, all those big fancy things. I also ran the NASCAR program, and the brand that we raced was Dodge. And at the time, we had one team that we worked with, and that was Team Penske. I actually already knew Roger Penske prior, because when I was at Aston Martin, he was one of my dealers. So I knew him in a very different life. So I get into this responsibility with Fiat Chrysler of motorsport, and I was, I'd be at these meetings for the different series. And I'm fond of saying, because it's the easiest way to kind of give you the snapshot, I'm at the NASCAR manufacturer meeting with the guy from Chevy, the guy from Ford, the guy from Toyota, and me. And that was one very easy example, but I would be in sports car meetings with the head of racing for Porsche and Toyota, and and the guy from this, the guy from that, the guy from that, the guy from Mazda, and I was the only one. And I'll tell you, and many of you have probably experienced that, where you're one of a few, and at first you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. Wouldn't my parents be proud? Look where I am. And then that wears off, and you realize, wait a second. There should be more of us. And we all know, the data shows having a diverse board of directors makes for healthier companies, all the things we know. Women are not minorities. We're 51% of the world population. We hold ourselves back. And so that was the background. That was my lens. I'm a business person, and an incurable racing fan. So, okay, how do we do more with this? And I realized I could do more outside of working. So here I was working for one of the big three, and I'm like, you know what, I can do this. I want to go on my own, because I want to do bigger things and broader things and reach kids and kind of build this whole thing. So that was the impetus of starting this team back in 2015. I also have a story similar that where behind the scenes, a story to be revealed in the future, where people go back on their word. And it wasn't a lack of funds, it wasn't a lack of engine support, but at the 11th hour, I had to pull the plug and didn't run in 2016. And I've come to learn that there's a fine line between being tenacious and stubborn. I like to say I'm tenacious. But
I didn't say you were stubborn. I just said
no.
you're persistent. Okay.
I'm persistent. No,
right.
I should just say that in general. No,
okay.
You've never said I'm stubborn.
Right.
No, I'm Italian, I'm stubborn.
I'm stubborn.
Well, but you have to be, right? Because, and it's funny, because there are a lot of times that when you look back, you're like, I could have given up all of those different marks in time. And we all have those stories, right? And so last year, when INDYCAR announced a race for equality and change, I called Roger Penske and said, what is this? What are you doing? And he said, what are you doing? And he said, let's talk. And so that was really what the impetus was, because the final conclusion is, for me, it wasn't about the driver. And because I do think that if we have a more diverse paddock in all of the roles, we will have more diverse drivers, because you'll see yourself in everything. If you see that the sport is for you, you'll find a place for yourself in it, even as a fan and as a viewer or a participant. But there's 33 drivers on that grid. My team is 30 people. One of them's a driver. There's 29 other things to do. And, respectfully, those 29 other jobs have skill sets that are transferable to other things. You can be an aerodynamicist on a race team and then go work for Boeing. Literally. The woman who was our aerodynamicist on our team used to work at Boeing. You could be, one of our mechanics had come out of the military. She was a diesel mechanic for the Coast Guard. These are skills. And then the last 5 yards, as I like to say it, is connecting sport, education, and skill set to a career. And why do careers matter? Careers and financial stability allows for independence. And if women can have independence and agency for themselves, it leads to a more equitable society. You don't have to be dependent on someone to pay your rent, ever. And you don't get yourself into any trouble. And if you need to pick up and leave, you can, because you can pay your rent and pay your bills and look after yourself. That's what my team's about.
We need each other, okay? I mean, all of it works and counts, okay. Rod, down there, I can't see you because I'm blinded by this, but...
I have a very big head.
No, I can't see because of the light. You have been doing this for a very, very long time with your NXG Youth Motorsports program. I mean, you are now running a race team for Indy, but we know, because we know, you and I know, we go way back. You've been in the sport a long time, but you actually stepped in and just made a difference with your youth program, your NX. So would you share that story with everybody? Because not everybody knows it.
Sure. I've been really, really blessed because I sort of, out of frustration, was able to do something that I think a lot of people might like to do, but we actually took the initiative to do. So let me give you a quick background. At 17 years old, I went to my first INDYCAR race. My family was not into racing, but I had always listened to it on the radio, and I decided that I really wanted to go to this race. So a friend of mine said, hey, if you want to go in the 500 and you don't have any money, you should be a yellow shirt. The yellow shirts are the security people who, pick up trash and so forth. So I did. I think I made, a couple bucks an hour to go in the Indy 500 and work the track. So I go in the night before and wake up at 5 a.m. and I hear the horn going off and, the excitement starts. And I go to my first 500 just kind of peering over the stands because I couldn't be in a seat. And it just thrilled me to no end. The smell of the tires, the oil, the whole bit. And I thought, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this. And not as a race car driver, but just to be connected to it. So years later, I studied at Purdue. I went to engineering school, and I became an engineer civil. And a lot of guys would go to the race and say, Rod, you want to go to the race with me? Absolutely. So I would do this year after year, and eventually I was able to meet different people, including an African-American young man who was a rework mechanic at a company I worked for, Detroit Diesel Allison. I was in tool design, and he was the mechanic working on these big transmissions. And he said, I'm a racer. I started in go-karts. I'm going to do Formula Ford. And I'm getting ready to go to California to a racing school. And I didn't even know there was such a thing as a racing school. So we became fast friends. So we drove 44 hours in a little TR7 out to California for him to go to Jim Russell Racing School. And those things started to change my view of what could be. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go help you raise money to be the first black at Indy. And that was our goal. This is the mid-'80s. And so, long story short, we weren't able to get there. And the reason we weren't able to get there, we ran a Super V team. And much like Sarah, we were trying to do get our license in front of Pancho Carter. So we had a team allow us to have a car, an INDYCAR. And we paid a lot of money at that time to do this test. And quite frankly, we got screwed. And this frustration of spending all of this money to not be able to get our license, and we had nothing else to pull from, we stopped. For almost 10 years, something I absolutely loved, I got completely away from. I refused to go to a race. I refused to talk to folks at INDYCAR. And so I started my own business. Charles Wilson went on to become an engineer for Amtrak. And one day we're at Stefan Johansson's go-karting track on Lafayette Road in Indianapolis, you know the place. And we said, why are we letting this get the best of us? Why should we let one incident cause us to not be involved in a sport that we love? And so on that day at a Pizza Hut, we came up with this idea called Next Gen Racers, for the next generation of racers. And we said, we will not have a little black boy or girl go through the same mess that we went through in racing. And that frustration started this program. And the idea was to introduce kids to motorsports via go-kart driving. And we said, how are we going to do this? We don't have a lot of money, the kids don't have money, but that kid that lives 2 blocks over from the Speedway, who never goes in, who hears the cars every year, we want them to be able to come into the Speedway if possible and have an experience. So it took us 6 years to raise the money. We have all the assets. We own go-karts, helmets, suits, everything. We say that all the kids have to do is have a good attitude and clean underwear. And we can, and we'll put them in our go-kart. So our program takes kids from underrepresented communities, which are predominantly, I think we have 92% African American and about 2% Latino, and the rest are white kids. And we also have about 26% female participation in the program. And we've been doing this since 2006. Our very first request of INDYCAR and IMS was to allow us to run our program for free on their parking lot. And believe it or not, we got resistance. We don't allow outside community programs to come here without a charge. We just want to use your parking lot. So it took us a while. We got that done. We were able to raise funds for everything else so that these kids can come basically for free. We charge $25 application fee, and that's it. So today we've had 2,300 kids through the program. Back in 2016, we became a not-for-profit organization called NXG Youth Motorsports. And our program is to expose kids to motorsports, to teach them some life skills that they can take away after they leave us, and then to help them understand that there are career opportunities, to Jimmie and to Beth and all of those folks who know that the race car driver is an important part of racing, but it is the one position that tends to pay to play as opposed to getting paid. So we try to make sure that these kids understand that they have an opportunity or could have an opportunity in motorsports. It could be in catering. It could be working in healthcare. We don't care. Our whole thing is to expose them to that. So that's how we started. That's how we started.
You made me reflect on my first time going to the Indy 500 in 1966 and being in turn 1 and watching. But I never said I was going to be a driver, okay? I never said I was going to be a driver there, okay? But I just said this sport it speaks to me. Yeah, it's mine. So thank you for sharing that. But thank you for doing what you've done, what you are doing, but what you've done. And as a product of what you've done, one of the examples of the product is the gentleman over here, Myles. We haven't forgot about you.
Hello.
So Myles is the actual race car driver that came through the NGX program that is racing for Force Indy. And so Force Indy is competing in the Road to Indy series.
Correct.
And you are the driver in that series. So you are the. Will you at least defend the drivers for me up here? Will you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Come on,
Drivers
Myles.
are
I need you.
important,
I
Jimmie.
need
Come
you because
on,
I've
like-
been thrown under the
It's a
bus
tough
over
room.
here.
Tough room.
So, but you are also a college student, and I want to a little bit know, how did you also get? Because I heard this, and we didn't have a chance to talk beforehand, but I heard that another race car driver out there is the one that happened to see you in competing. And so, could you just share your story of how you love the sport, how you got involved in it, what are in all that good stuff? Okay.
Yeah, so I
Your
started...
journey. I
Yeah,
want to know your journey.
So, I mean, I'm Myles Rowe. I'm 21. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I live in New York right now. But I originally started racing when I was about 12 years old. But I discovered it when I was about 4. And I was watching a Formula One race. I told Rod about this. It was like in France or something. I remember seeing Fernando, and after that, like, it was literally for 2 seconds. And after I saw those 2 seconds, that was literally like why I'm here right now. So it just hit me like that. And immediately when I saw it, I was really kind of an introvert when I was smaller. So instead of like going out a lot and hanging out with friends, I'd end up like being on my computer or being at home reading or something. Like I'd do a lot of research on my computer. So how I actually got into racing, like my parents weren't into racing or anything like that, like nothing racing at all. So when we were watching racing on TV, I was watching with my dad, and he was like, "Why do you want to watch this?" Like, I was like, "Dad, it's cool," like kind of a thing. And then so research for years and years, like just saved up, like, like bookmark bars and stuff like that on your laptop, like figuring out like prices for equipment and everything like that, all the way down to like the tie rods and everything, like to build the go-kart from scratch. And finally had this list of like $20,000 worth of go-kart parts at like 8 years old. Like, Mom, Dad, this is awesome. Like, come on, like, let's just do it. We can do it. Like, obviously me, like, I was kind of a dreamer when I was a kid, so I just thought anything was possible. So it was like, trying to find the opportunity. Like, that was a lot of the journey before I actually started. So when I actually got to finding the opportunity, which was, we found an indoor karting track that was about 45 minutes away from us, and it was really cheap, something like Sarah Fisher, where it's like a lot more affordable, to help people who, for instance, don't have $2 or $3 grand just to say, let me try this, like kind of a thing. Like it really helped to find that. Like I wouldn't be here if I didn't have that sort of a thing. So when you said, like, that's awesome, like that's super cool. So. Yeah, we did that, and that's how I started. Did the indoor karting. It's called Pro Cup Karting. At I think the Andretti family owns these venues. It's called Andretti Indoor Karting, and they have them all around Georgia. They might have them in other states. I'm not totally sure, but yeah, that's what it was. Won the championship first year, and then we moved into an outdoor series that was the same. Like it was associated with it, so we didn't have to buy our own cart. So same kind of thing, just outdoor. So. That also kind of helped with my development and my driving too, because when you go on indoor, like you really have to learn car control and like momentum and all that.
It's called no grip.
Exactly. And then the transition into outdoors, and then not immediately going from an indoor, like one of those really slow cars, to like a 2-cycle X30 engine or whatever, instead going to basically the same amount of power, maybe a little bit more, but just more grip, and then learning how to work the car with the grip and everything. I think that helped my skill as well. So I honestly, like, if I had a kid and they wanted to race, I think I would, even if I had $1 billion, I think I'd do that. So I think it's so needed. Like it's not just to get people into the sport, it's just to develop yourself and to grow like from a proper starting point, and not just start where these people have been here for 5 years and that's why they're here, sort of a thing. So I thought that was a really good piece of enlightenment that my family and I had, and it worked out pretty well. So did the other series, finished like 2nd and 3rd in that series, and then we decided this is something we want to pursue, and then my parents, I still feel so like my parents, they worked their butts off. So my dad worked his ass off, like just so much, and we finally got this go-kart. We went all the way to North Carolina from Atlanta, Georgia, drove 5 hours, because the track, unfortunately, in Atlanta, Georgia, the only good track that's an hour and a half away, you have to spend like, I think it's like 2 or 3K a month to like actually just drive there. Like you can't drive there. It's a private track. So the real good track to actually get time and like develop my skills, we had to drive 5 hours to North Carolina, which was okay because at the GoPro Motorplex. Are you aware of that? Yeah. So it was a good track, so it was worth it. And great facility, great people there. So we went there, got the cart, and like you're saying, got the cart, went in a couple sessions, sun's going down, but GoPro Motorplex, they have lights around the track, so you can like race at night and everything. And I get on the track, and I see this helmet, and I'm like, no way. Like, no way. And then we're going, and then the guy slows down. And then I see him slow down, and I'm like, this isn't real. And then he passes me. And when he passed me, like, the way he passed me, I just knew it was Will Power. So, yeah. So Will, he ended up literally, I mean, it hurt my ego a little bit. He would pass me, and then he would slow down and let me pass him back. And then he would kind of like see what I was doing, and then he'd pass me back. And then like I'd like try to follow him, and then he'd slow back down and everything. We went out again for another session, and we did that, and it was super cool. And he talked to me after we finished it all. And he was just a really nice guy, and just he just really wanted to, like, it was so weird because I didn't even meet him. Like, we just drove together for a second, and for some reason, he just oddly wanted me to succeed. Like, it was just so, I don't know. Like, you know
Some race car drivers are actually nice.
Yeah.
The part that he didn't say, Lyn, is that Will told me that he couldn't get past him.
That's not true. He's gotta be bluffing.
So Roger told all of us he walks around with a picture of Myles for what, 2-3 days? And in every meetings that had nothing to do with this, he would pull out Myles' picture and say, this guy's going to drive my car. And I mean, this guy, I don't know if he's going to put it in the wall or whatever, but Will says he's the greatest driver ever, and he can't pass him.
Oh, gosh. Oh, jeez. So, yeah, like, that was a great day, and, I mean, that's how I met him. I didn't see him. Actually, I did go to one of the only INDYCAR races I went to before this year. I was in Alabama. And I saw him there after the races, and that was cool. And I actually talked to Elia too, which was cool. But that was the last time I saw him. And so fast forward, more of my history. Like, we got the cart, raced for about 3 years in WKA, World Karting Association, and USPKS, United States Pro Kart Series, which were kind of the typical like East Coast national series you did. Then didn't do all the races, the money and the traveling and everything, but we did a few, and we had positions. We did well. We won a couple, but not like a lot. Just money and all the engines that those guys were rebuilt.
Yeah,
oh my gosh!
It's called the reality of the
gosh.
cost. Yeah,
it was insane. So, but it was fun. It was really good experience, and it was really good to just I was really lucky. First of all, like Jimmie said, like there's a lot of parents where a kid will do the same thing I'll do, and it's just like, what are you showing me right now? Like, this isn't kind of a thing. So I was really lucky to just be there, and I definitely absorbed it all and everything. But it was really frustrating too, like, because for some reason I kept getting knocked out. Like, people kept intentionally hitting me, and nobody would look at me at the track. Like, nobody would look at me and my dad. Only so few people would look at us. And it was so odd to me. Like, and it wasn't really an issue in the indoor karting track because it wasn't really a whole motorsport setting, but it's like motorsport. Like, you're there, and it's just like nothing. But like, other than that, it was really good. And then we left. Well, we did Lucas Oil. We did Lucas Oil Formula Series, which was 2017, the year after the 3 years. Won the Winter Series championship because we couldn't do the full championship. So it was about 3 races. 6 races, 3 weekends, won 3 out of the 6. Done for 4 years. Got a call from Rod. And then, started things up, and Will helped that, obviously. And here we are. But yeah, things have definitely improved in terms of just love at the track, and just Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's no other way to describe love, you know. It's definitely changed. And
We do love you. We love you, brother.
thank you so much. But yeah, like,
But I hope it also, love comes from many different places, so it isn't just the common.
for sure, it can come from anywhere.
I want to make sure of that, yeah. Okay. But before we leave you, because we could listen to this story, because he's a race car driver and I want to hear more. No, you're going to college, I think, though, aren't you?
I am, I think.
Well, are you still, or do you work? Because I know that college was in your life at some point, because I read that.
I am. So I just I just finished junior year. I'm gonna graduate next year, so I'm a rising senior. I go to school, I live in New York City, go to school in New York City, downtown financial district, Pace University, majors film and screen studies, also kind of a photography minor kind of a thing going on. Yeah, I want to be a cinematographer as well as a race car driver.
Okay. No, but I think the well-roundedness of you is impressive. I mean, the passion is obviously there that you have for the driving, but I just see more, I see that well-roundedness.
You're going to help me win my argument again. I'm working on getting an internship at IMS Productions, see?
Uh-oh.
Don't be in a hurry, all right? Slow down there, Jimmy. Slow down. Okay.
Just covering all our bases.
You're jumping the gun. You're hurting me,
covering all
Jimmy.
our-
This is a
You're
tough
hurting me.
road. Anscia, wait a minute. Thank you. It's okay. Anscia, are you ready? I mean, I know. I know you are, because we talked on the phone, and you are always ready, So Anscia is the social media director. Is that right? Manager at MoneyLion, and MoneyLion is exactly what that is. It's the money part of the sport that makes a lot of the wheels turn. So and you were a sponsor of one of the sponsors on Beth's program at Indy. So, and you're a newie when it comes to our sport, from what I just. But boy, you came across with as much passion on the phone as as any of us, as much as Jimmy already. Will you please tell us about your involvement in the sport and how you kind of got to where you are?
Okay, can you all hear me? Yes? Okay, awesome. So as Lyn just mentioned, I knew nothing about motorsports even prior to working at MoneyLion. This was not my forte. I had a work study at St. John's University. That's my alma mater, so St. John's is also in New York. And I worked with the athletic marketing department my entire 4 and then my MBA program, so 5 years at St. John's. I wanted in any capacity to get away from sports marketing as much as possible, and it seems to follow me because I'm here sitting in front of all you beautiful people today. And so to talk about this amazing opportunity that we had with Paretta AutoSport and working closely with Beth, I'm still in awe, and every time I sit back and my friends are like, they're texting me, it's like, you don't understand what y'all just did. It's like, this is history. And like my friends are texting me, they was like, I'm sorry, I'm watching the race, so can you text me back later? Like, and I'm like, oh, but you're the reason why. I'm the reason why you're watching the race. Like, you wouldn't even known about it. And so it's just super important, and I know it's part of the fan engagement, and I cannot get into debate between the driver. I can't join that conversation, but I can talk about the sponsorship portion of it, how it's just so important to be involved and be in these conversations and actually empowering and fueling, in this particular case, women. Our company came up with the Women Who Roar initiative, which we're going to show the commercial soon, so it'll tie in and make a little bit more sense in a few seconds. But we noticed, especially during the pandemic, that a lot of women were displaced in their careers. They either went back home because they had to go and take on the role of being the mom and going back and handling the duties of the home, or they worked in the gig economy in the restaurant industry, and we all know that we used DoorDash a little bit, and that was about it, and we tried to make our own bread at home during the pandemic. So we had our fair share of trying to, experiment at home. And we really wanted to take the opportunity to empower women and give them give them, the financial tools and resources they needed to really excel and succeed, So to kind of give a plug about my company, because they're the reason why I'm here, we are a personal finance app, and so everything is digital. You can download us in iOS and Google Play Store, and we really just want to make finances accessible to everyone, irregardless of your background, irregardless of your knowledge of finances. So if you need help building your credit, if you need a cash salary advance because times are tough, we are in the pandemic, and we understand that, and we want to help you. Even if it's just the financial literacy part of it, getting into investing, learning about crypto, we just provide those tools and resources that are available. So partnering with Beth Paretta and Paretta AutoSport, it meant the world to us. Everyone at the company really wanted to make sure that we provided all the resources and the tools to make sure that this partnership was a success. So I could probably go on for days, but I'm going to stop there because it's definitely a passion of mine.
We all know that racing runs on sponsorship, but there's something very different when you have shared values, and you're very lucky when you can find that. And what they did to support us from the very beginning, it was literally days after our announcement, we put it together. We didn't announce it publicly for maybe a month or so after, but literally days after we did our press conference announcing the team's existence, we had the connection with MoneyLion, and they said, we want to support financial literacy for women. And it's oh my gosh, I had the whiteboard of the dream of what this would all look like, where all the satellites were, of what kind of partners you want to work with. And MoneyLion was exactly that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, if you don't think the future's bright at this point after listening to this unbelievable panel, I want to thank every one of you for your passion and for your sharing your points of view, your journeys. I think it's totally clear that we can understand the diverse stories. We can't live them because we can't live what somebody else lived. But if we listen well, and we allow ourselves to absorb what it must be like to have experienced what others have experienced, that we can make better decisions. We can show up and support, even though we're not of the same color or the same gender. That's why, I recently attended a conference online from the FIA, and it talked about from this expert that women will never achieve equality, and I don't think this is just women, essentially. There will not be equality in the world without men, because it's still run by men, men who are allies. This word allyship was a new word to me, and every now and then when I talk to people that are working in diversity, oh yeah, I know that word. I had never heard the word allyship. And so how I expand is that we may have different points of view, but you and I are allies, and so, and you've talked about the ally there, shared values, shared views. I had it with JCPenney and didn't understand it until after I got him as a sponsor. You have to find those allyships, and they're not just mentors, and that's what we all are for each other. So I think, boy, thank you, and we're going to show that video because it speaks volumes to what we're talking about. And I hope we're ready, Tina.
This is for the little girl who wants to go faster, to push harder, to feel thunder. This is for the girls who refuse to stay in their lane, who earn every inch of asphalt they gain. This is for the team, fueled by something greater than themselves. To all the women who want to go faster, never stop.
Lyn, I do have one quick question for you. I know we're backing into lunch, but I saw you beaming with pride while Myles was speaking. So I want to know, what was the moment that you knew you were going to be a race car driver?
Me?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, the tickets. I had a lot of tickets. And I found out that, well, it's true. So I had to keep my driver's license, which means I had to quit getting tickets. And I found out that a legal, safe place to drive fast was on a racetrack. I mean, it was, and so And I showed up at SCCA, became a member, and then I worked on a corner. I'm like, this is not a lot of fun. And then I worked at timing and scoring, and I'm like, I'm indoors. I don't want to do that. This wasn't a lot of fun. And I looked around and I went, the drivers are the ones having the most fun. You know, I don't know how to work on a car. I'm not a mechanic, so I'm not about to go do that. And I'm like, everybody works for the drivers. So I want to be a driver. Keep my driver's license. So, I mean, it was a fairly amount of logic that my brain said. So I don't know if she's still in the room, but I have to thank Cindy Sisson for dragging me into this and really empowering all of us to share this story. I mean, she and I have been buddies for a long, long time, and we have prevented each other from screwing up too badly over the years. And but in this case, she's really put a powerful program together, and you guys are just awesome, and thank you very much. And I know it's time for lunch.
I want to make a couple of practical requests because I want to make sure you leave home with action items. If you want to change things, one, if you sit on a board and there's nobody in motorsports on that board and you have a motorsports opening, invite somebody in this room to be on that board with you. If you work for a company and that company is looking for a speaker or looking for somebody to come in and talk to others or inspire, invite somebody in this room to come in to speak at your company. If you are a member of some group or some organization or some women's leadership group or just a leadership group in general and they're looking for somebody to speak on a panel that has nothing to do with motorsports, it can have something to do with empowerment, engineering, business, invite one of these dynamic women, these drivers, phenomenal drivers. I'm on the drivers all the time because the drivers drive the car and they need to get out the damn car and go speak to somebody about money. Get one of these drivers to come talk to somebody about money that's not in the sport because that's not what they're trained to do, but that's what they need to do. And if you're looking for some drivers, I got a whole bunch of female drivers between Pimperman, Shift Up, Sarah, Lyn. We can get them and they can come and they can speak. And say, yeah, we can get them. Beth, we need you to go out and be the advocate. Don't be afraid to say, I got somebody that'll speak. I got somebody who's entertaining. I got somebody who will lead and has great stories. And that is how we have to change the industry. We got to get the people out of just being at the racetrack and be in corporate America. So any ties that you have or opportunities you have to get these folks in front of corporate America, that's going to help us educate and get money into the sport. That's what I'm really all about and want to do. And I love my drivers doing that.
I have a feeling we're going to see Jimmie and Lyn in a corner during lunch, so I'm going to sign up for that one.